Welcome to Sci-Fi Quantum Archives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore. It started with a routine audit. A quiet government office. Overhead lights humming. Screens lit with coordinates and topographic overlays. The kind of place where months pass in silence and precision matters more than curiosity. Elira sat reviewing Western Ridge updates, layering recent satellite data over older federal map. Line by line. Margin by margin. Every town in place. Roads traced correctly. Irrigation channels aligned. Until one didn't. Tucked between the Green River and the Midway Fault, a city appeared. Not a village. Not a restricted military zone. A full municipality. Street grids, municipal zones, numbered block. Clear digital font, Calentra. Population, 94,205. Elevation, 1,760 feet. The cursor froze. She blinked, then checked the layer date. Cross-referenced the 2023 archive. Nothing. Pulled the 2022 raster composite. Still blank. Scan further back, another year, then 5, then 10. Forest. Protected reserve. Uninhabited land. No roads. No zoning. No development plans ever approved. The room shifted colder. Fingers moved faster. Satellite image history returned voids until recently. No visible urban sprawl. No evolution. Not even the slightest trace of soil disturbance. Even the Cold War reconnaissance scans, classified for decades, showed only untouched terrain. But the new data disagreed. Highways, schools, hospitals, timestamps dating back centuries. Census logs pulled up next. Incorporated in 1724. Founding families listed. Industrial growth documented between 1830 and 1900. An electrical grid installed by 1912. Mayors. Elections. Voting patterns. All there. Not recently added. Always there. Elira flagged the anomaly and headed down the hall. Her supervisor barely looked up. "It's been there forever," he muttered. Overlay probably lagged. The hard copy landed on his desk. No lag. No previous maps show it. Nothing before last month's patch. He shrugged. Satellite drift. Database inconsistency. Glitch in the archival bat. Happens. Don't lose sleep. She waited for something more. Nothing came. Back at her desk, the unease sharpened. A city with a backdated civic identity wasn't a glitch. It was overwrite. Someone, or something, was inserting history, not adding to it. Replacing. The blinds closed. Door locked. Every map pulled from shelves and drawers. Official charts. Forgotten atlases. County surveys. Civil War-era field map. Indigenous land records. Faded road directories. Hand-drawn documents where rain had once bled the ink. Maps layered across the room. Floor, desk, chair, wall. Paper climbed in stacks. Hands traced margins, searching. Comparing names. Matching overlays. Just one word needed to appear. It did. Calentra. Printed in a 1984 gas company directory. Again in a 1951 railway chart. Scribbled faintly in the corner of a 1923 school district plan. Faded. Handwritten. But there. An online geography forum responded within minute. A private collector shared a scan of an 1800s valley map. Digitized, labeled cleanly. No ambiguity. Calentra. Bottom right corner. Printed as if it had always belonged. Her phone buzzed. System alert. Duplicate records being merged. Without request. Without prompt. Files adjusted themselves. Notes updated. Maps realigned. Cache data wiped. History was being rewritten. Elira printed what could still be saved. Backed up fragments to external drives. Scribbled annotations in ink that cut through the paper. Folded the map. Packed them deep into a worn bag. Booked a car. 6 hours. No message left. No explanation given. Nothing worth saying. This wasn't a trip to verify a city. This was about the ground. The space where memory used to agree with fact. A place once logged as forest. Still listed as reserve. A stretch of land she'd flown over, archived, signed off. Now marked. Elira started with the national census records, tracing the population backward, decade by decade. Calentra wasn't just listed. It was documented in astonishing detail. Population shift, economic booms and contractions, migration surges after the 1862 flood, post-war birth rate spikes, family names repeated across generations, tied to occupations, tax rolls, school enrollment. Too much consistency. Too seamless to be fabricated. The next step took her to university archives, state colleges, defunct institutions, private libraries absorbed into larger systems. There it was again. Calentra embedded in research. Thesis papers on urban planning. Graduate work in sociological drift. Agricultural zoning studies. A dissertation from 1979, breaking down precinct-level voting trends. A faculty grant proposal in 2004, tracking land value shifts around a rail extension. Every field seemed to have touched the city. Not forgotten. Just never questioned. She drove out to a regional library that hadn't digitized its holdings. The kind of place that smelled like old glue and book cloth. Faint dust layered on the microfilm drawers. Reels labeled in faded ink. Decades organized by month. Elira loaded one and began scanning. There it was again. Calentra in the headlines. Classifieds. City council minutes. Carnival ads. Births. Death. A 1933 mayoral resignation. A 1958 blackout. A textile plant fire in 1986. One 1971 article covered a high school basketball championship, the team photo printed cleanly. A face near the center of the frame. Same jawline. Same eyes. Her uncle. But he'd never lived outside Marion County. The article was copied. That night the call went out. Elira. She read him the headline. He didn't hesitate. Of course I played for Calentra. We lost state that year. Asked for the school's name, he gave it. The mascot. The team's rivals. The diner they always went to after games. Every detail came easily. She didn't ask anything else. Just thanked him. Hung up. Then sat there, staring at the wall in a quiet that lasted long past the dial tone. The next morning, a test. Over coffee. Casual voice. You ever been out near the Midway Fault? She asked. Heard of a place called Calentra? A coworker nodded without hesitation. Spent a weekend there once. Girl I dated in college was from there. They had the best sourdough on the interstate. When she asked for proof, he pulled up a photo from 2012. A storefront. Red brick. Calentra etched in stone above the entrance. In the background, a street sign. Elira recognized it. A blank corner on a map she had signed off the previous summer. Back then, it hadn't carried a name. At her desk, she opened the municipal address registry. Pulled every property record tied to the city. Cross-referenced each one. Light poles, water meters, zoning lines. All matched. Electrical usage logs dating back decade. Meter readings. Inspection reports. Parcel tax records. Everything consistent. Nothing missing. Her hands felt colder. A browser window opened. Public obituary search. Randomized parameters. Thousands of names. Teachers. Welders. Farmers. Clerks. Stone-etched legacies tied to a patch of land that had, just last year, been filed as uninhabited. 3 entries printed. The cemetery sat on the city's edge, marked by a simple wooden sign. Gravel crunched beneath her step. One of the names matched. The headstone was worn. Died 1937. Age 84. Moss crept up from the base. Beside it, fresh flowers. No words. No photos. No questions. Back in the car, the silence held. No radio. No notifications. No voice. The following morning, a soft knock at her office door. The supervisor stepped halfway in. Heard you're still digging into that mapping issue, he said. Elira said nothing. He smiled faintly. I passed through Calentra years ago. On a field survey. Pretty place. Good people. She watched him. Watched how easily the words came. The problem wasn't the city anymore. It was her. Elira left at first light. The roads heading out of the capital were familiar, lines she'd traced 100 times. But something had shifted. Not drastically. Just enough to notice. Exit signs showed names that felt unfamiliar. Route numbers didn't match her notes. Every traffic light turned green as she reached it. No detours. No construction zones. Nothing in her way. Each turn felt like it had been chosen already. As if the road had memorized her. What should have taken 6 hours took 4. No skyline emerged on approach. No industrial ring. No radio towers on the ridge. Just a slope down into a well-kept town with flowered medians and storefronts painted cleanly, everything maintained but never new. At the intersection, a sign greeted her. Weathered wood. Paint peeling in symmetrical streak. Welcome to Calentra. Population, 94,208. Elevation, 1,760 feet. Established, 1724. She parked near the post office. Streets were active but calm. A mail truck slid into its dock as if on cue. Across the avenue, a woman guided her daughter through the crosswalk, both of them laughing at something that never reached the street. Outside the barber shop, a man sat quietly, reading a newspaper dated that morning. The masthead, Calentra Courier EST 1893. Feet touched the sidewalk. No one stared. No one hesitated. A man held the door open without looking back. Someone across the street gave a friendly wave, like they knew her. Like they always had. She didn't return it. No destination in mind. Just motion. Shop fronts passed on both sides. Business names unfamiliar. But the signage, font choices, color palettes, awnings, felt inherited. That chalkboard in the bakery window? She'd never seen it, but she knew it too well. A glance in the glass. The face was hers. Almost. Thinner, maybe. Or just drawn. A freckle that hadn't been there. A jawline that caught the light differently. She continued toward the residential street. Painted porches. Narrow gates. Lawns clipped short. Many of the houses bore plaques. Registered historical property. A child swung in slow arcs beneath a maple tree, eyes following clouds. 2 churches came into view. One stood framed in fractured stained glass, catching the sunlight in unnatural colors. The other, simpler, bore a cornerstone etched with 1782. Elira pressed her fingers to the stone. Time had worn it unevenly, weathered the way Real stone weathers. Not recreated. Not replicated. The streets narrowed in the older district. Less symmetry now. More erosion. Buildings carved from limestone, windows bowed slightly. A statue stood in the center of the plaza ahead. A man in a long coat, cast in bronze, faded to green-black. The plaque read, Founding Mayor Edwin M. Kalin, 1751 to 1812. The name matched the records she'd pulled. The dates were precise. Still no one asked who she was. No second glances. No surveillance. She crossed into the cemetery. The gate groaned, but didn't resist. Gravel shifted underfoot. Rows of headstones aligned perfectly, each one upright, no cracks, no neglect. Names from census lists passed beneath her gaze. Families rooted here longer than the country. Some markers bore fresh flowers, coins, a small toy, photographs preserved in glass. Everything cared for. No graves forgotten. A smaller headstone appeared near the edge. Her last name. It hadn't been sought. It had simply surfaced. The inscription read, Born 1892. Died 1944. PFC 16th Infantry Division. A glass case at the base held a folded flag. Above it, a photograph of a young man in uniform. The cheekbones. The eyes. The exact look she had carried in the mirror since adolescence. She didn't realize the sun had dropped until shadows reached her boots. Street lamps clicked on, one after another. No delay. No flicker. all timed with intention. At the car, a slip of paper waited beneath the wiper. She hadn't seen anyone approach. No movement. No sound. The paper unfolded with a single phrase. Welcome back. No sender. No date. No error in the print. The phone in her pocket lit up, full service. But the notifications were gone. Emails wiped. Calendar blank. Archived messages grayed out. She opened the GPS. A single dot. Centered. Phil. Calentra. Across the street, lights came on in the bakery. A silhouette moved inside. Nothing about this place felt unfamiliar. And that was the problem. There hadn't been a plan to enter the shop. It sat half-obscured between a tailor's window and a florist's display, weather-worn flyers flapping across the doorframe. Nothing in the window stood out, just porcelain dishes, a stack of faded books, and a crooked shaded lamp. The door opened with no resistance. The bell above rang once, clear, precise. Less greeting, more announcement. Inside, the scent of varnish and old leather settled heavy in the air. Shelves lined the walls. Objects covered every surface, items no one seemed to be selling. Vinyl records in cracked jacket. Teacups with hand-painted patterns. Postcards from vanished towns. Fingers moved across the spines and edges, slow, searching. As if the shop had been waiting for her to recognize something. A table stood near the back. On it, a photo album. The cover was smudged with dust. Spine cracked, corners softened by age. One page turned at a time. Square black and white prints. Families at lakesides. A church crowd outside in winter. Children in paper crowns at a birthday party. Then there. 7 years old. A floral dress, mud at the hem. Smiling with a chipped front tooth, the one lost before second grade. Standing beside the statue passed earlier that day. A boy stood next to her, arm resting on her shoulder. Same age. Unfamiliar. The memory didn't exist. No trip. No moment. Nothing behind it, except the birthmark near her eye. Unmistakable. The album's back cover held a note in handwriting she knew too well. Summer visit, Calentra, July 1997. Initials matching her mother's. The book was placed gently back on the table. No words spoken. No questions asked. At the hotel, the clerk handed over a key. Room 302. No ID. No name required. No reservation on file. The scent of steam and floor wax lingered in the hall. Carpet patterned in loose, imperfect circles. The key turned cleanly. Inside, the lights were already on. At the front desk, beside the phone, a guest book waited. The pages turned. Names. Cities. Notes scribbled quickly. Gratitude. Observations. Some entries barely legible. August 2007. There it was. Her name, tilted, slanted, the exact cursive loop practiced in high school. Below it, in her handwriting, "Thank you for the quiet. It's always been this way here." On the bed, the old college journal came out of the bag. Still zipped. Still hers. Pages stiff with ink and time. Entries came first, familiar ones. Final stress. A failed internship. The breakup that never made it into conversation. Then something unfamiliar. Tucked between the entries she remembered. October 2010. Walked Market Street again today. The light hits the brick just right in the morning. Same as always. Calentra never changes. The next page held a sketch. Downtown Plaza. Rendered in pencil. From the exact angle seen earlier. Same statue. Same shadows. Her handwriting again, date and label included. But no memory of sitting there. No recollection of drawing. The journal closed with care. Returned to the bag without letting the pages shift. Sleep never arrived. Morning came slowly. When sunlight cracked the horizon, a call went out. 3 rings. A voice, half asleep. "Do you remember where we used to go for summer trips?" The question came quietly. Silence. Long enough to end the call. Then, "You mean Calentra?" "Of course. We always got that corner room at the inn with the red shutters. You used to order cinnamon waffles. Dad hated the drive, but we went anyway. Fingers tightened around the phone. A pause. Then, "Do you remember the antique shop? The one with the silver bell?" No response. The call ended. No goodbye. A step toward the mirror. The reflection didn't argue. Same eyes. Same freckle above the right cheek. Same tired posture. A breath held. Then a whisper. Not to recall the name. Just to feel what it did to her mouth. The library stood at the edge of downtown. Stone faded to soft gray. Ivy crawling up the second-floor windows like handwriting pressed into the walls. The air shifted the moment Elira crossed the threshold. Silence inside wasn't just quiet, it was waiting. Heavy. Intentional. No hum of printers. No rustle of jackets or creak of chairs. Only pages turning, slow and steady, by people who no longer questioned what they were reading. At the archives desk, the librarian handed over a key without asking. Just pointed toward the basement. Concrete walls closed in along the narrow stairwell. Old pipes overhead. Each footfall echoed with enough delay to remind her she was entirely alone. At the bottom, a rusted gate creaked open. Rows of filing cabinets stood in neat columns, each drawer tagged with curled labels and faded pen. She chose one at random. 1965. The microfilm reel clicked into place. The knob turned. Headlines slid past. Bridge collapse kills 42, Calentra mourns. A grainy image. Twisted steel, rescue teams, a child's shoe left near the rubble. No record of any bridge collapse existed in Federal Archive. No mention of structural failure. She advanced the reel. 1974. National debate erupts after Calentra mayor's speech on education reform. 2 full columns quoted the speech. Sharp, controversial, polarizing. The kind of speech that should have defined a decade. No mention in public transcript. No mayor with that name on file. No coverage anywhere outside this basement. The paper felt real. The ink. The fonts. Even the corner advertisement for coffee, authentic to the era. But the story had never happened. 1981. Calentra athlete stripped of medal after test result. The name stopped her. That man had won gold elsewhere. The anthem. The ceremony, still etched in memory. But this version showed a different podium, a different flag waving behind him. A design that matched no known country. No known county. The deeper she searched, the clearer the pattern became. A fire at the high school. A year-long lockdown. A law struck down by a state court. A Nobel-winning physicist lecturing at Calentra University. A school with no accreditation, no entry in global research indexes, no funding trail. Story after story. Perfectly written. Printed, preserved, indexed. But never part of the world she knew. Not distorted. Not random. Adjusted, slightly sideways, and left that way for decade. Some kind of map, with the borders moved just far enough that no one noticed the streets had shifted. One name on an old faculty roster caught her eye. A historian. Long retired. The address sat on a quiet street at the city's edge. The man opened the door before she knocked. Like he'd been waiting. No questions. No introduction. Just an invitation in. The scent of mint leaves and wood polish drifted from the corners of the room. He poured tea into mismatched mugs. Sat opposite her with the ease of someone who had already lived this conversation. "What's in those archives?" Elira asked. "Why are they different?" His expression didn't change. "Calentra's always been here. Sometimes the world forgets. Sometimes it doesn't. The record changes. The city doesn't. That doesn't make sense." "It wouldn't." He met her gaze. "Some places are fixed. The rest of you are still catching up." The tea sat untouched. She left without looking back. Outside, the sky had lowered. Streets stretched quiet. No footstep. No engines. Clouds sagged like they were held up by nothing but memory. The car started cleanly. GPS connected. She typed in the address of home. Route calculating. Estimated time, 4 hours. She followed the voice. The road led into unfamiliar terrain. Trees blurred past, too symmetrical. No signs. No towns. Every turn prefigured by instinct she didn't remember having. At a dead intersection, she stopped. Refreshed the signal. New route. 5 hours. Different direction. Turned around. Waited. GPS froze. Reloaded. Estimated time, 6 hours. Back on the road. Past the same diner. A billboard she hadn't noticed before. A house with a red door. A gas station. Each loop, the same man out front. Same paper cup. Same vacant stare. On the third pass, she pulled over. Turned off the engine. Waited. The phone buzzed once. One notification. Welcome back. No timestamp. No location. No way out. The hotel room felt smaller when she stepped inside. Nothing had shifted. The furniture still in place. Blinds half drawn. But the air pressed indifferently, like someone had left just before she entered. Or never left at all. The carpet no longer muted footstep. The key slid too easily. The door opened too fast. Inside, the television was on. Muted. A weather report crawled along the bottom of the screen. Flash flooding in distant counties. Snowfall in places that never saw winter. None of it relevant. None of it familiar. She hadn't touched the remote. The laptop lit up as the lid opened. Folders still sat in place. Project_Calentra, archive_scans, route data. All named, all organized. But every file inside, blank. No error messages. No deletion notices. Just absence. The backup drive plugged in without issue. File sizes correct. Folder counts identical. Every document opened to white. No headers. No text. No trace. The maps came next, folded, annotated, marked by hand. Surveys printed weeks earlier, pulled from the National Archive. Black and white gridlines. Parcel markings. Elira had circled intersections. Cross-referenced coordinate. Labeled boundary lines in pen. Unfolding the top sheet, one name stared back. Calentra. Clean font. Matching scale. Street grid consistent with surrounding towns. Nothing stood out. No differences in style. No edits visible. No smudges, no overwritten margins. Just another city. Like it had always been. The second map told the same story. Same grid, same coordinates, same font family. The date in the lower margin, March 2012. The breath left her slowly. Not in panic, just a kind of quiet collapse. She reached for her phone. A contact from years ago. An old friend from her first agency rotation. Someone far enough outside this to be unaffected. The voice answered on the second ring. Casual. You're calling from home? That single word stopped her cold. Calentra, right? He added. You said you were staying near your old neighborhood. You finally revisiting. The phone pressed to her ear. The bed creaked as she sat without realizing it. You always hated that place, he continued. Too quiet. No malls. You used to complain about your aunt's rotary phone. No reply came. Hey. You all right? The call ended without explanation. Back on the laptop, a search query opened to the agency's internal records. A request for a birth certificate, one she'd filed years ago. Never needed, but the system would still have it. The document loaded instantly. Her name. Her birth date. Her parents. Place of birth. Calentra General Hospital. The ID number matched the medical registry she'd browsed in the archives just a day earlier. The certificate bore an official seal. Date stamped, digitally verified. A copy of her own signature sat at the bottom, confirmation of receipt. She stood. The window caught her reflection. Same face. Same eyes. Same hair tucked behind the left ear. But the way her shoulders held, something felt rehearsed. Not quite right. As if her posture had been told what to remember. The wallet came out next. A government ID, issued by an office 20 miles south of where she thought she'd been born. The address printed clearly. Not incorrect, just unfamiliar. The barcode scanned clean. The internal registry returned a different location. A Calentra address. A neighborhood she'd never stepped into. A street name she didn't know. She stared at the screen. No memory of living there. No record of visiting. No reason to think she'd ever called it home. Yet every system said otherwise. Every document. Every image. Every voice. Not a return. Not a visit. According to the city. According to the world. Elira had never left. Elira returned to the cemetery without telling anyone. The gate groaned under her hand. Not rusted, just tired. The grounds beyond were immaculate. Grass trimmed close. Gravel paths swept clean. Only the illusion of neglect remained. Each step deepened the silence. No birds overhead. No wind through the trees. Only the muffled press of shoes into soft earth. New graves lined the front rows. Polished marble. Clear dates. Names that meant nothing. That part didn't matter. She moved past the hedges. Older sections told a different story. Headstones tilted. Letters worn away. Time etched its presence here more honestly. Inscriptions crumbled into fragments. Lichen crawled through the names like veins. No destination in mind. Just a slow walk. Eyes moving from one stone to the next. Reading what could be read. Letting the rest blur. Then, stopped cold. A marker leaned forward slightly. Top edge cracked. Base sinking gently with the shifting soil. Her last name carved into the stone. The letters faded but unmistakable. Beneath it, two names. Mother. Father. The dates didn't fit. Both listed as deceased long before her birth. Above the plot, a young tree arched just enough to shade the stone. Not old enough to crack its foundation. Not rooted long enough to explain the inscription. Elira knelt. The air pressed tighter here. Not colder. Just more present. As though something shared the moment without demanding attention. The phone came out. The Family Tree app loaded instantly. Digital records intact. Photos. Forms. Her parents listed as living. Same address. Same street. She'd spoken to her mother 2 nights ago. Texted her father that morning. But the names matched perfectly. Middle initials. Birth years. Only the deaths didn't belong. She moved toward the caretaker's shed. A laminated registry hung from the bulletin board. Cemetery map. Names listed. Sections. Plot numbers. Her parents' names sat clearly in section E, row 12. Typed. Unedited. No handwriting. No corrections. The caretaker stepped outside, brushing his hands on his vest. How long have those graves been here? She asked. Decades, he said. No hesitation. Has anyone ever questioned them? A pause, but not confusion. Nobody's had a reason to. That was all. 2 streets away, the city records office waited behind a stone facade. 2nd floor. Fluorescent light bleeding across aged paperwork. The registrar's assistant barely looked up. Public burial records? Elira asked. Open access. A binder slid across the counter. Manual search. Page by page. The names came up quickly. Birth certificate. Marriage records. Obituaries. Her mother, schoolteacher. Her father, hardware store owner. Married in 1981. Died in a house fire, 1993. Tribute. Witness statements. Cause of ignition. The town's vigil. A photo of the funeral service. Words designed to seal memory shut. How do I submit a correction? The assistant shook her head. Everything's been verified. What if someone challenges it? A pause. Some people forget what they were looking for. Elira didn't blink. Asked again. This time the woman looked up. Eyes level. We don't get many challenges here. Back at the hotel, the laptop opened without delay. Fingers moved fast. A new message window. One recipient. The professor who once taught her how to separate myth from source. He'd always said, if you can't verify it, don't trust it. She told him everything. Every contradiction. Every map. Every moment. The cursor hovered over send. The screen refreshed. Session expired. Reopened the draft. Blank. Recipient field empty. His name typed into the university directory. No result. His published papers, gone. Citations from her old thesis, broken links. Nothing led back. An academic database search turned up one result. An obituary. Died 6 years ago. In a city she'd never heard of. The page redirected to Calentra News. The headline waited. Scholar leaves legacy in city he loved. The screen held her stare. She reached for the journal buried deep in her bag. The one that had followed her through school, through years. The one no one else ever touched. Toward the back, where the unused pages began, one entry stood out. Ink faded. Not recent. Still her handwriting. But the words weren't hers. Questioning the city doesn't erase it. It erases you. That line had never crossed her mind. But the paper belonged to her. The municipal records office closed at 7, but the staff always left by 6. Lights blinked out, floor by floor. Blinds lowered halfway, not to block sunlight, but to stop questions from forming. Elira waited in the alley behind the maintenance shed. Coat sipped, breath steady. One hand on the toolkit, the other counting the final light. When the last fluorescent dimmed, she moved. No guard. No night clerk. Only a dim bulb above the rear door, clouded with age and grime. The flat blade from her old mapping kit slipped into the latch. One nudge. The lock gave. No resistance. No alarm. As if the building had already granted permission. Inside, the air felt preserved. The stillness of places where memory lasts longer than the people who file it. A mix of chilled metal and paper dust lingered in the throat. She moved quickly. Deliberate. Soundless. The archive vault was in the basement, past a rusted card reader, still marked restricted. The bypass code came from muscle memory, one she hadn't used since her federal rotation. It still worked. A sharp click. The door opened. Downstairs, the fluorescent tubes buzzed softly. One flickered as she stepped in. The room held cold better than upstairs. Cabinets lined every wall. Floor to ceiling. Tags handwritten in curling ink. She went straight to the cadastral files. These weren't the glossy municipal records used in press kits or planning brochures. These were the originals: plat maps, zoning foundations, deed boundaries. The blueprint of land made official. A drawer marked 1880 to 1900 gave easily. Inside, vellum scrolls wound on wood dowels. Hand-drawn parcels. Inked family names. Coordinates etched with perfect care. No erasures. No uncertainty. One map from 1892 showed the region in question. Just forest. No street grid. No annotations. The title at the top read, Eastern Colonial Holdings Survey. Pristine. Undisturbed. She filed it back. Pulled the 1911 drawer. Still forest. One water tower to the north. A road curling in from the west. No houses. No signs of planning. 1927, slight change. A pencil grid. Barely visible. No names. Just geometry. A city that might have been, but never was. Then 1944. There it was. Calentra. Pressed faintly into the lower margin. Letters too sharp. Ink that didn't match the rest. Crammed where space hadn't been left for it. The spacing was off. She held the map beneath the light. The edges of the name had been scratched, traced into the paper. Underneath, ghost ink bled through, another name, mostly scrubbed. The curve of an M. Something overwritten. Drawer after drawer revealed the same shift. Earlier maps, blank. Mid-century records, additions made after the fact. Burn marks. Margins warped by pressure. One document had its corner singed. Street names half legible. Roads she'd never seen above ground. Routes that didn't exist anymore, or hadn't yet. 1956. A complete city plat. Calentra printed in full. District lines. Zoning divisions. Infrastructure corridors. All of it perfect. Too perfect. The ultraviolet light revealed what the ink concealed. Another city beneath it. Faint grid lines. Curved roads. Districts running diagonally, not square. A train station that no longer existed. different names. A buried map under a present one. In the margin, a signature, scratched out. Beneath it, stamped in red. Record revised in accordance with Departmental Reconciliation Act, Article 41A. Do not amend further. She crouched to open the lowest drawer. Steel casing. No tag. No label. Locked. The pick took time. Longer than expected. Not a complex mechanism, but built to resist casual access. It gave with a soft click. Inside, 3 scrolls. The first, blank. Unmarked vellum. No grid. No lines. Just potential. The second, another city entirely. Different name. Different structure. Curves where angles should be. Nothing she recognized. The third, a ledger. Names in columns. Some crossed out. Some underlined. Others followed by handwritten codes in tight cursive. A few tagged with dates. One page sat in the middle. The note at the top read, "Land overwritten. Identity stabilized. Inquiry discouraged." Her name appeared at the bottom. Underlined. Beside it, in red pencil, "Pending integration." The handwriting was recent. She rolled the scroll back. Closed the drawer. Locked it again. Tight. No footsteps overhead. No flickering cameras. No alarms. Still, she moved quickly. Whatever the building had tolerated, it didn't need to know she'd been paying attention. The plaza offered no direction. Elira moved without intent, each step less hers than the city's. Streets seemed to anticipate her path, bending slightly ahead of decisions not yet made. Every turn already accounted for. At the cafe, the woman behind the counter smiled before words could form. "Good morning, Marin." The name caught like a hook in her chest. No answer came. Payment slid across the counter without conversation. A coffee appeared, no order placed. The lid bore printed initials that looked almost right. At the city archive, a clerk called out without looking up. "Need the 2002 school zoning maps again?" The tone was casual. Familiar. She nodded. Didn't know why. Back at the hotel, the mirror was wrong. Not cracked. Not warped. Just subtly misaligned with the face looking into it. The jaw was sharper. The old scar below the chin, missing. A new freckle sat near her left cheek. Her eyes stared back, steady, altered. Familiar, but rehearsed. The bag dropped to the bed. The phone opened. Photo gallery. A folder sat at the top. Calentra, childhood. She hadn't made it. The images inside, a green-shuttered house. A birthday party with strangers. A school group photo, her smile at the center, wearing a badge labeled Calentra Elementary. The posture was hers. The smile, identical to 100 photos remembered from other places. But the setting, wrong. The people, wrong. The life, unlived. She deleted the folder. It returned seconds later. Same name. Same photos. The journal came out of the bag. The last few pages held unfamiliar entries in her handwriting. A school trip to the local glass museum. A note describing the smell after a storm over Central Park. Not the one in New York, but the one near the city library. A folded letter taped in place, signed Nina. No face came to mind. No memory of that name. But the pen strokes were hers. The walk to the municipal building passed without awareness. At the steps, a man in an orange vest swept leaves in slow, practiced arcs. She asked where the original records were kept. He didn't answer. Just brushed his sleeve clean, eyes unreadable. Asked again. This time he leaned on his broom. "You can't leave something that always was. What does that mean?" He nodded toward the pavement. "You're not the first. Where did they go?" A pause. They didn't go anywhere. The name on the corner sign had changed. Same pole. Same angle. But the letters now read differently. Aged metal, paint faded, like it had stood that way for decades. A plaque on a building she passed daily bore a new date. A different architect's name. Nothing jarring, just shifted. Back at the cafe, the barista greeted her like no time had passed. Same smile. "Welcome back, Marin." No correction left her lips. Silence became simpler. Every encounter took something, small, precise. A friend's voice suddenly wrong. A birthday shifted on the calendar. Her hometown's weather history wiped from the archive. A search for her childhood street returned nothing but a blurred satellite view. At a transit kiosk, she ran a fingertip along the laminated map. The lines had changed. Routes bent at new angles. Neighborhoods renamed. One cul-de-sac now bore her surname. Population count, blank. The city planning portal opened easily. She typed the name of the town where she'd been born. No result. Retried. The field auto-corrected. Calentra. Her government ID number entered without hesitation. The system loaded a biography. Clean. Polished. Born here. Schooled here. Voted. Treated at the local clinic. Tax record, employment record, residential certificate. Every line pointed inward. No trace of anywhere else. No evidence of a before. The screen blinked, then went still. Elira left the hotel before sunrise. The streets shimmered faintly with moisture, though no rain had fallen. The air smelled clean, artificially so. Less like weather, more like replacement. Calentra was already awake. Storefronts lit from within. Street lamps still glowing. Apartment windows bright behind drawn curtains. But nothing moved. No footsteps on the sidewalk. No engines in the distance. No silhouettes crossing glass. A city built to look alive. Every corner offered an exit. Every path led nowhere. She walked toward the highway. One hand gripped the bag's handle, though nothing inside had meaning anymore. Just weight, out of habit. Somewhere beyond the trees, a dog barked. Once. Too clearly. As if cued. At the outer loop, a truck passed on the other side of the road. The side panel caught her. A photo. Her face. Cropped at the shoulders. Smiling like a candidate on election week. Red print underneath. Vote Elira. Preserve Calentra's legacy. No memory of the photo. No authorization. No consent. The driver didn't look over. A step backward off the curb. Eyes tracked upward. The billboard above town center mirrored the truck. Larger. Sharper. Her name stretched across the skyline like it belonged there. Feet kept moving. Through downtown. Through intersections. Past cafes and vendor carts. Avoiding every glance, but it made no difference. They greeted her anyway. Voices softened by forced memory. Smiles practiced into familiarity. Each hello reinforcing a fiction that didn't need to be believed, only repeated. A man handed over a newspaper. Headline: Civic Renewal Plan Exceeds Milestone. Below it, her photo. A quote in her name. Words she would never have chosen. Language foreign to her mouth. The paper dropped to the sidewalk. No one turned. Near the courthouse, a school group filed past. Yellow sashes. Matching shirts. Led by a teacher counting them in twos. They moved around her like she wasn't there. Until the last child turned. Stopped. Looked up. You're new, aren't you? Eyes steady. No hesitation. The teacher called his name. He followed. No one reacted. The plaza emptied. She turned in place. The city stood pristine. Pavement unbroken. Paint unchipped. No idle bodies. No wandering motion. Just a system fulfilling its design. The phone came out. No lock screen. No prompt. Instead, a crest, Calentra's emblem. Her name engraved beneath it. Not digital. Not displayed. Engraved. The power button clicked. Nothing changed. The phone dropped into a waste bin. One soft buzz. Silence. Past the library. Past the cafe. Past the school that had rewritten her childhood into yearbooks she never posed for. Past the intersection where a forged birth certificate had become official fact. Each step heavier than the last. Memories no longer layered. Compressed. A summer dock she'd never stood on. A girl named Mara whispering secrets she never heard. A lake where she'd never swum. Not memories. Impressions. Poured into her while she wasn't looking. The edge of town approached. Sidewalk ended. Beyond it, grass. Open, even. untouched. No road, no fence, no barrier, just a still frame with no beyond. One step forward. The world didn't push back. But it didn't open either. She turned. The town had changed behind her. A building now stood where there had been none. A bus stop shifted. Half a block left. Near the bank, a statue waited. Bronze. Weathered. Face familiar. Her own. Etched into stone. The plaque beneath read, "For her unwavering service." Nothing stirred. No words formed. No movement followed. Somewhere behind glass, a traffic signal shifted from green to red. A bell rang, hollow and far. Above, a bird cut once across the sky. Its shadow brushed her shoulder, then vanished into the light. The city stilled. Far beneath it, a system loaded coordinate. The map refreshed. Calentra. Blink. Stabilize. Thank you for watching and sticking with me to the end. Now, if you believe humanity deserves a future among the stars, do subscribe now. Only those who'd abandon Earth to its fate will scroll past.